On this episode, our top 4 destinations, tours, campgrounds, and drives. We are Terry and Cindy O'Keefe. We've been camping together for more than 40 years, and we invite you to join us in a 12-episode adventure as we explore the Yukon and Alaska.
So just before we start, I wanted to mention that these were our interests and things that we wanted to do, and not everyone is going to have the same interests or appreciations.
And of course, we didn't see everything and go everywhere. So this is based just on our experiences.
So with that proviso out of the way, here are our top 4 destinations.
And our 4th destination could have just as easily been number 1. They were that close when we ranked them together. It's Valdez. We loved this small town at the end of Prince William Sound. There's Glacier and wildlife tours. Fishing, museums, and the Solomon Gulch Salmon Hatchery, where you don't just get to see the salmon, but the sea lions too.
Our number 3 destination, Dawson City, Yukon. In Dawson City, you can step back in time and can relive the Klondike Gold Rush. And Parks Canada has fascinating guided tours of the historic downtown, a steam-powered paddle wheeler, and North America's largest wooden gold dredge. You can even try panning for gold yourself. And of course, there's Diamond Tooth Gerties Gambling Hall and the downtown hotel's Sourtoe cocktail to try. We spent 5 days in Dawson City and could definitely have spent more.
And now coming in for our 2nd favorite destination, Denali National Park. Of course, there's Denali itself. Incredible. But there's also tours of the tundra wilderness and wildlife. There's sled dogs and hiking. If you love the wilderness and the outdoors, Denali is a very special place. And speaking of special places, our number 1 favorite destination
is Seward. Seward also has Glacier and wildlife cruises. There's glaciers to hike.
1951, this was the location of the toe. Just a quick pop over here. And we can see where the glacier is today.
A sea life center. Glacier dog sledding. Amazing wildlife.
Another eagle. Look at that.
And funful oceanfront camping with beautiful walking and biking trails.
Picking our top 4 tours or excursions wasn't easy. We had some really great ones. And we actually have 2 that are tied for 4th place. And let's start with the Aurora Ice Museum Tour at Chena Hot Springs. Home to the world's largest year-round ice environment, the Aurora Ice Museum was created from over 1,000 tons of ice and snow, all harvested at the resort. The museum has sculptures, all made on site. There's even bedrooms you can rent and a chapel. But the best part,
Thank you. You're welcome.
you can order an appletini and drink it at the bar. It's made out of solid ice.
And tied at number 4 are the guided tours put on by Parks Canada of the historic buildings in Dawson City.
So this is kind of how it would have been back in the day. When you are walking by later, you can see on the photo there what the building used to look like. So I think we've done a pretty good job of getting pretty close to what it would have looked like.
They included a walking tour of the Klondike Gold Rush Town Center,
But I think it's worth noting, so this is the old Bank of Commerce, the CIBC that we still use today as a bank. It was open until the mid-80s.
the Keno paddle wheeler,
So what you see on the port and starboard sides is these pipes holding steam that run to the engines.
and dredge number 4, the largest wooden gold dredge in North America.
Balanced out. Has anybody seen a sluice box in action? It has to be very perfectly balanced, very finely balanced. A little bit difficult to finely balance things like a 1,600-foot sluice box when you've got very large bits of metal and everything moving. But yeah, they managed it. These windstrums on this side of the bow are balanced by the motor that raises and lowers the arm on the other side. I'll show you.
And the next 3, well, it was actually pretty hard to put them in order, but this is what we came up with. Coming in at number 3, Denali Air, the flight scene tour of North America's highest peak. The pictures simply speak for themselves. At one point, I actually had to stop taking photographs and just take it all in. It was actually quite emotional, with a couple of people on board brought to tears by this experience.
Next on our list is the Glacier and Wildlife Tour that we took out of Valdez on the Louisville.
The only thing wet on those guys is their nose and their toes.
The otters and sea lions and orcas were amazing. And the Columbia Glacier was awe-inspiring. And while we could have easily changed the order of the top 3, we decided number 1 had to be the Seward helicopter ride and the Turning Heads Kennel Tour. The excursion to the summer home of the Iditarod team on Godwin Glacier was unforgettable, soaring above Resurrection Bay and zooming across the Godwin Glacier. Once at camp, you get to ride or even mush an Iditarod team in training. And then you get to play with the dogs for a few minutes.
We figured this had to rate as number 1 in our list because Cindy couldn't stop talking about it for 2 days after she got back. It was amazing.
It was.
Next up is our favorite campgrounds. Normally when we camp, we stay in national or provincial parks, and we really value the peace and the quiet and the privacy and the scenery. But much of the camping in Alaska wasn't like that. So we've had to change our criteria here a little bit.
Coming in at number 4, Heritage RV Park in Homer. This was a full-service campground right on the spit, within walking distance of the fishing hole and shops and restaurants. And while it was very expensive, we thoroughly enjoyed the views right from our waterfront site.
And if beautiful views were the only criteria, this next campground probably would have rated number 1. But coming in at number 3 is Congdon Creek, territorial campground in the Yukon on the shores of Kluane Lake. Not only are the sites quiet and private, the views were incredible. And late in the season, the views continued into the night.
Our number 2 campground was Bearpaw 2 in Valdez. Only a 5-minute walk from the harbor or downtown, Bearpaw 2 had beautiful full-service waterfront sites. We simply loved sitting behind the trailer and watching the world go by.
This is the evening here in Valdez. Klondike Festival just over there. We got some live music happening. What do you think?
It is so awesome.
What a view.
Beautiful.
And topping our list as our favorite campground was Resurrection Campground in Seward. Yes, it is a parking lot, but the sites are fairly large and well marked, and some, like ours, had electricity and water. We also had a beachfront fire ring, and there's a beautiful walking trail right behind the sites. And the views from the site were spectacular. Mountains, Resurrection Bay, cruise ships, and the wildlife.
There's 2 otters and 2 bald eagles. Oh, they're coming right up on shore, Cindy. Can you see them?
Yep. Oh my God.
RVing to Alaska is at its heart an epic road trip. And some of the highlights of that adventure are in the beauty of the drive itself. So here's 4 of our favorite drives. And once again, we've got a tie for 4th place. So let's start with the Richardson Highway approaching Valdez.
The Richardson Highway skirts glaciers and descends through Thompson Pass.
Look at that, Cindy.
About 14 miles before reaching Valdez, you'll find Bridal Veil Falls. There's a wide pull-out southbound where you can pull over to enjoy the falls and snap a picture.
And tied with the Richardson is the Stuart Hider access road.
You can't even, you gotta lean forward to see it out the front of the windshield. There's a glacier up there.
The road to Stewart and Hider is about 40 miles long. It passes the Bear Glacier and winds through a beautiful mountain and waterfall-lined fjord.
Coming in at number 3, the top of the World Highway.
A little bit of snow up here.
The Yukon's top of the World Highway was a relatively wide and well-maintained gravel road that generally runs across the ridges of the mountains rather than through the valleys, hence the name. For much of the drive, you are above the tree line. It is very remote and the views are spectacular.
And coming in at number 2, the section of the Alaska Highway around Stone Mountain and Muncho Lake. This section of the Canadian Rockies is stunning, and the teal waters of Muncho Lake are beautiful. This section of road should not be rushed. Take your time and enjoy the scenery and wildlife.
And without a doubt, the most beautiful drive of the trip was the Icefields Parkway between Jasper and Banff. It was simply spectacular vista after spectacular vista. And while we didn't get to spend much time here due to an emergency, it won our hearts as the most beautiful drive of the trip.
And finally, we'd like to share some of our favorite memories. Now, we're actually not going to rank these because they're kind of diverse, but when we look back on our Alaskan and Yukon adventures, these are some of the most fond memories that instantly spring to mind. The first time seeing Denali. It was on the Denali Park Road and a bit unexpected. And we felt so fortunate because 70% of Denali visitors never get to see the Great Mountain.
We have many memories of the power of nature we witnessed, from forest fires to watching a glacier calf. The vastness and remoteness of some parts of the journey makes you feel so small, and yet so lucky just to experience it.
And then there were the man-made experiences we may never get a chance to repeat, like drinking a sourtoe cocktail that has a real human toe in it in Dawson City.
And since we're on the topic of libations, we will always remember the coffee. Alaskans love their coffee. It is so good. Some of the best coffee comes from these little trucks that are on the side of the road. It is so good. And the other one would certainly be Alaskan halibut.
Oh, the halibut was delicious. And these little coffee huts, Cindy's right there. Every small community has a few. And I think the favorite one, favorite name that we had was Java the Hut. That was hilarious. And perhaps most memorable of all was the wildlife. On our final episode of the series, we're going to look at what did it all cost. It was a lot. We're also going to look at some of the things that might have gone wrong and some of the challenges that come with a 12,000-mile road trip. And that's all on our next episode.